All right, cool. So this will be more like Tinkerer talk. So there's going to be a lot of code and very little slides. And so when you get lost, like let me know and we'll see. Maybe as a bit of context, I think the title is Adaptive Proactive Agents or something like this. What does it actually mean? So I'm working solo founder on donethat. donethat is an app that promises to double your productivity. I think it's very marketing speak. I did a little calculation how it actually doubles your productivity, but we don't have to get into this. What it does, it on its core just takes screenshots all the time, feeds them into an LLM, analyzes what's going on, and from there coaches you, tracks your time, like does all kinds of stuff. And what we're going to look at for this talk is Don. Don is the coach of donethat. And basically, it can just pop up at any time. Oops. And start talking to you because about something it saw in your screenshots, right? As you can imagine, this can be very powerful when it works, and it can be super annoying when it doesn't work. When you just have like this thing popping up there all the time, it's like, hey, how are you doing? Maybe, I don't know who remembers Clippy from Word is the design with the big eyes is a bit inspired by Clippy. I was thinking of calling it Donny, but we ended up at Don in the end. Yeah, like how do you measure this kind of thing, right? Like how do you know if it's good if people are getting annoyed? So this was kind of the motivation. Then let me see what I planned to talk about next. Let's just look at some code. So this is the core template, the prompt. You are a proactive AI. Then I basically allow every user to define their own prompt if they want to, like most people don't. But there is, just to open things up, if we look at Don, let's close this again. Basically, I have like different ICPs. One is people with ADHD who are just like all over the place and like can't really track their time and not really sure what they're doing. And they really wanted something that just like pushes them all the time. It's like, hey, like get picked to work, like out of this rabbit hole. Then there are other people who like want more like the cheerleader kind of thing that like at the end of the day, it's like, hey, well done. Like you did all this great stuff, like motivating a bit more. So I kind of created different personas to already influence a little bit like how this chat works. And then allowing people to kind of adapt. But yeah, I think as I then started building this, I realized this can go wrong very quickly. So initially I put out this prompt, I deployed the app, and then for some reason it just started like every 5 minutes because the screenshots are every 5 minutes, and basically at every screenshot it's checking, hey, is there something I can now do? It just started annoying people. So we needed a very quick kill switch. So I then added a kill switch to this app in the admin thing that like whenever something is going wrong, I can just like turn off this chat for everybody and like just be safe. I then also added another thing that just monitors how often this chat is active. And if it goes above a specific frequency, it's like, I don't know, more like 5% messages sent out to users, it also just shuts down the whole thing and like lets me debug just because like the risk is so high that everybody's gonna get annoyed. And then this, like they can disable this. As soon as they've disabled this, then nothing is gonna work anymore, right? This is the kill switch. All right. Then to try to make this agent more adaptive, the idea is like somehow learn from previous interactions, right? Like how do I learn from these interactions? The first thing that I did was quite naive, is like just feed in previous chats, right? Like maybe the user responded in the previous chat that they didn't want this specific interaction or they didn't want something like this. But there's like a limit of chats that you can feed into the prompt without it being overwhelmed. So what I then started doing next is I added like a module to define actions that agents can take and have an evaluation module to figure out if the users actually ended up doing something. So what does it mean? So let's look, for example, here at these agent definitions. One of them is to take a break, right? So there's a little bit of a prompt that explains like what this means to the agent. And then I define signals and resolution windows to measure if this is actually happening, right? So for example, I tell the user, hey, you should take a break. And then in the next hour or so, I check like, did they actually stop working? If so, probably what I said made sense, right? It wasn't annoying because actually they did and followed up on what I suggested them to do. And I then, let me see, here's an example, I think just from the database. So here I suggested that, or not I, this chatbot suggested that they should set some goals, and the outcome was they actually did. Right? Like very often they don't. And the next step of that is, of course, then to go through and to try to learn from these outcomes and adapt per user or personalize. Okay, like this user never reacts to like this kind of prompt, so like let's just not suggest that anymore, right? Like this user reacts, but like only in the morning, or like you kind of have to try to find patterns from this. My initial thought was it's kind of a reinforcement learning problem because you kind of have a state space, you have actions you can take, and then you have outcomes. And I wanted to train a reinforcement model on this, but like things got busy and I just didn't have time until now. But it feels like a typical reinforcement learning problem, no? Okay, this is one agent. Then the other touch point I have with the users is basically the way that works. Let's go back to the app. Is at the end of every day, I kind of create a summary of what happened. Right? Like, so yesterday, my goal was to achieve an inbox 0. I did a podcast. I had some meetings. I did like a lot of outreach. And this is then sent by email to the user, so they can check if this is actually fine, and also kind of to help them review their day a little bit. So this is a very natural touch point I have with users, right? The problem was I wasn't really measuring much. So like one day, like 2 months ago or something, I started setting up a CRM. I had an intern. The intern wanted to do growth stuff, so I was like, okay, like we gotta have a CRM. In the CRM, I then started measuring who's actually using which features. Right? So this is a bunch of users. And I basically defined measures for each feature that then checks, are they currently using it? Have they ever tried it? Have they stopped using it? Or have they just never even discovered it? And these features latent. And you just see like just visually, compared to the features that people are using and trying and the latent ones, there's a bunch of latent stuff, right? Like, so people never activated, they were never onboarded, they never used these things. And I was thinking, hey, maybe we can use this framework of suggesting actions in these daily interactions, then also in the emails, right? It's kind of, you have a touch point already anyway, and these emails looked a bit like this, like very boring. You can see I stopped reading them at some point for myself. It's like, it just tells me what I did. It's like kind of boring. So then I was like, hey, actually, let's take this email, but apply the same idea, right? So from these few actions that I had before, which is like set your goals, take a break, work on something else, change your focus. Now, all of a sudden, we have like hundreds of these actions, right? That all, let's look at one. This is like, hey, reply to an email, because there's an inbound webhook there. When you reply to these emails, it activates a chat, and then you can kind of talk to the agent. Or there's another one here, hey, like you should totally add an avatar to your profile, or like all these different things, right, that you can do. And again, like for each of them, I defined some kind of prioritization function to see, did they actually do this in the end, so that you can then learn from what actually worked, what didn't, and apply this to more users. Yeah, I think that's the main concept. I think in general, I'm super bullish on this idea of everybody has emails from users. You can just build this agentic email interaction there, right? Like basically you have authentication from a user because you have their email. You can check that the email is actually coming from the server. You can link it to their account. So you could do much more like direct interaction via email with people. And this is like one example of this, right? But I think you could, like, I don't see any reason why I can't buy things on Amazon by just sending an email to Amazon being like, hey, I want to buy a fridge, give me 3 examples. And I just answer yes to the first one. This is a bit of a digression, but Jeff Bezos actually, when he tried to start Amazon, first tried to do it on email for the first half year until they found out, hey, like we just can't parse these things, let's just build websites. But now with AI, we actually can, right? Like, so this is an example of interacting via email with people. And maybe the rest of this talk wasn't that relevant to you, but I think you can add this to basically any app, and it's totally worth trying. So maybe here's some inspiration to also try it for you. All Right. I think that's everything. Yeah. Any questions? Yeah.
I'm curious, what's the most used action? What do people like best? Can you just first repeat the question?
Sure. So the question was, what is the most used action? What do people like best? It is, so for this chat thingy, I built a thing where in the beginning of the morning, it just asks people to set goals. It's like, hey, what do you want to, like, what's the most important thing for today? That seems to work quite well. Like, maybe because it like just triggers you to think a bit, and like, then it also holds you accountable to this. The taking a break stuff and that other stuff is a bit more mushy.
Next question.
Please.
Can you say more about the privacy aspects?
Ah, sure, yeah, sorry, I didn't focus on this at all. It's like super privacy sensitive, this whole thing, of course, right? So what's the best way to explain this? Let's go back to the website. So first of all, parts of this is just open source. So you can go to the repository. This is an Electron app. So like everything that runs locally in your computer, you can inspect, you can understand what's going on. You can bring your own LLMs so that at least for this initial screenshot analysis thing, they just never touch my servers. And you can verify this because you can look at the open source version of the app and make sure that, yeah, these like critical parts are private. And then there is a lot more stuff. And I just built a long page that explains it all, like a diagram of like how the data flows through the whole app. You can pause it. You can define apps that you just never want screenshotted. So then it like kind of takes a grade, like adds a gray box on top of it. You can review everything. Like you can use this as a team, right? But then you get like very privacy sensitive dynamics. So there you can like review everything. It's like highly limited what other people can see. You can, like everything is stored in Europe. You can pause this at any time. Yeah, lots of other stuff.
Have you looked at local models? Maybe not for real-time, the proactive stuff, but maybe there's some stuff that can happen like overnight. It doesn't matter that it's slow.
So I looked at the local models for this. I think the most privacy sensitive part of this is like the raw data access, right? Like seeing your screen and analyzing what's going on. So I tried to do that locally. It just took too much power from users, at least so far, right? Maybe somebody with an M3 MacBook, like it's totally fine. But the idea of this is it kind of works everywhere. But you can just, like you can bring your own LLM, right? And the LLM can be in the cloud or local. You just give me an API and I'll call the API. And if it's a local LLM, then you can use a local LLM.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like, for some things like, I want to look at what I did yesterday, it could also happen overnight.
Yeah.
And then it's maybe not so bad.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah. So the data, once it's processed, is actually stored on my servers. So then, it's kind of in the cloud already, and then you might as well just use LLMs there. But yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Do you have anything in place that prevents storing super sensitive data that I might actually not want to be stored on anywhere?
Yeah.
I'm opening my users panel and I see how much which user is spending.
Yeah, so sorry, I forgot to repeat the previous message, I think. But the question here was if there is anything to prevent storing like super sensitive data. And the first thing is the prompt, but that takes a screenshot and kind of creates text from this, is set up in a way that it says like, ignore anything that looks like PII, that looks like credit card information, passwords, API keys, like all that stuff, right? Then there is a setting where basically it takes all the raw data and then creates this few bullet point summaries at the end of the day. And the bullet points are like the interesting stuff. So you can also set it up so that after it generates those, it just deletes all the kind of intermediary data. You lose a bit of additional functionality. For example, there is an MCP server. You can just MCP this and then kind of give your Claude context about like anything you did ever, right? Like this gets less if you decide to like delete all that data. But it's still, I think, pretty useful. There's also a thing where you can say, hey, like, please exclude always like client names, like names of projects, these kind of things. Please.
Does it still send the screenshots every that amount of minutes if you're probably maybe on your bank account and it takes a screenshot, sends it to the AI that you're working with?
Yes, so yeah, so you can say, for example, let's just open it up. You can say, hey, for example, the app signal, if it's open, let's just do this. Let's hope there's nothing too sensitive there. That's the whole point why I try to do it like this. When it's open and it's taking a screenshot, we have an issue here, so there's a bug. But it should then just gray out this thing, and then you shouldn't be able to see it, right? But you maybe don't want to do this for all your banking apps or whatever. Then you can use an LLM that you just trust, like a local LLM or something that's hosted somewhere more sensitive. And the next step that I'm working on is to use a processing pipeline that uses an LLM that kind of takes out the sensitive data, but then still you have to process it somewhere, right? So
use the privacy filter by OpenAI?
I have not know.
It's a 1 billion parameter model, very small. I think it's even less than 1 billion, and it can run on almost any device, and it just filters out masks data from.
Ah,
I think it also does PDFs and stuff like that. I don't know if it does images.
yeah, I'll have a look.
Does it? Privacy filter. It's by OpenAI. Yeah.
Sorry, the question was if I have tried privacy filter by OpenAI. So there's one by them. There's ScreenPipe. Not sure
Yeah.
if you guys know ScreenPipe. They also just released a model that does a version of this. I think this is slowly losing power. So yeah, the plan is to work on one of those. The problem is you have to do it locally, right? Because otherwise, again, it's already sent somewhere, and that costs power, and that might just not work on all platforms.
Privacy filter is really, really small.
Okay.
Yeah, it's open source.
Yeah, I'll have a look. Cool.
Cool. Let's continue the questions afterwards. We can announce the next speaker.
Thanks.